Well, hello, party people, and welcome back to Spring Break 2021. Here we are at flu season at May's house.
Yeah, this is Neo, and this is Your Take Has the Flu.
Your take is currently down with the sickness.
Ooh, yeah,
We were
so
doing that joke before we started.
one of my coworkers, where I slave away for capitalism, came in on like Monday or Tuesday and was coughing everywhere, and now the house has the flu. So
thanks, bitch.
thanks,
Thanks
coworker.
a lot. Wear your fucking mask.
Yeah.
Anyway, hi everybody. Welcome to Your Take is Excrement Poo Poo Doo Doo Farts. Today's episode is going to be a kind of, okay. So first things first, a couple of things. Number one, we have an ad today. Pretty fucking sick. We're going to get to that later on, but we do have an ad at the 30-minute mark.
I'm excited for it.
I can't believe that we've done this.
It's great.
We got one.
Yeah.
It's that moment in Ghostbusters. We got one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Ring.
Yeah, we all go down the fire pole. Anyway, so
we should put a fire pole in the apartment.
We should. We
Just
don't
like
have
Bam.
We don't have a second floor, but you know,
our neighbors won't. Our downstairs neighbors won't mind.
Jesus. Yes. So today, welcome to Your Take is Excrement. This is the podcast where we talk about, I guess, weirdo cult film. I am introducing my Catboy Neo here, classic cinema, and one of the things that really just like clung to you in the last year was Jodorowsky.
Yes.
Or Jodorowsky. There's pronunciations.
Like the biggest, most controversial tick just clamped onto me.
Yeah. Well, and he has a tendency to do that. So we were going to be talking about The Devils today, but we've decided we're going to rewatch it and do a little bit of further analysis before we do a podcast on it, which I think is fair. The version that we watched before was not the fully restored version, which did make the movie, I think, a little less enjoyable over the other versions. So we're going to try to hunt down the uncut version and watch that. And then we're going to do a podcast about the uncut version, as I feel like Neo needs to see that to develop his takes. However, today we are talking about El Topo, the classic, the first psychedelic. Okay, it's not the first psychedelic movie, but it's the first like push towards the mainstreaming of psychedelic film.
Yeah.
This would be like the first one, and it's directed by Alejandro Jodorowsky, who is kind of a very... I feel like people are going to debate me on this, but I consider him to be a very selfless filmmaker. Like, as much as he is the writer, director, does the music, is in the movie,
is the main character,
does all that shit. Like, the movie is very weirdly anti-ego. I think all of his movies are.
Yeah.
Even while he has a tendency to play his own, like, religious daddy figure, which is kind of interesting. There's so much to talk about with Jodorowsky that we could do 10 fucking hours. We could do a whole podcast about Jodorowsky, to be honest with you, because there's so much to talk about. Tarot, I mean, good Lord. But more importantly than anything, this podcast is about how I show Neo controversial and important, wild things, and I milk takes out of him like the sweetest udder. And today,
the little cat udder.
Yeah. I got nipples, Greg. Can you milk me? So today I'm going to be milking takes about Jodorowsky, one of the most important art filmmakers in history, out of Neo, a cat boy.
Yeah. Well, before we really get into the movie, should we talk about the controversy and just kind of...
Well, okay. There's so much stuff to talk about. there's like it's hard to do it even in linear order. So
well, I just want to hit it first.
I think the thing to say is that we are going to be discussing the controversy around it, and we're not going to be like straying away from that. And we do have opinions and takes on this.
Yes.
So you know, we are going to be talking about it, but I do want to kind of like we could address it right off the bat, or we could just go right into it and then we can get there when we get there.
We can get there when we get there. It's just before you write a mean comment to me.
Before you're like, oh God, they're talking about Jodorowsky. Like, we know. We know. We're very aware. Listen, like, I built my career talking about Jodorowsky. Like, one of my earliest videos that got like 1 million views was me talking about the Holy Mountain.
Mm-hmm.
And like, trust me when I say I've heard. I have heard about it. So, Neo, my Catboy, my Catboy, can you explain to me the plot? I know this is very difficult, and it's increasingly, the challenge continues to increase, but this week is a real bitch of a challenge. Can you explain to me El Topo, or as the French call it, Le Topo? I
don't like how the French call it, first of all. No, but so the movie's about a gunslinger. Yeehaw. And the movie starts with him basically abandoning his son for a woman.
Wrecked.
Get wrecked, kid.
As most dads have a tendency to do.
Yeah, and then he gets trapped in the desert with this woman, and they then proceed to wander in the desert until they figure out they have to kill 4 gunslingers. So they then start on this psychedelic desert quest to kill these 4 gunslingers. And so the first one is like
bullets pass through him.
Bullets go through him. So how Jodorowsky's character beats him is he digs a bungee trap. And so when they walk...
Okay. Worth mentioning. Sorry, okay. I just coughed. We're going to be coughing on this, so you should know this because we both have the flu, so or at least recovering from it. But anyway, so the thing to note here about the gunslinger thing is this is a psychedelic subversion of gunslingers, like in the way that they're often presented. Mm-hmm. Instead of it being like he's going to go around and prove that he's the best by challenging all these people that are like really good, they challenge him in a spiritual way.
Yeah,
like to his spiritual dimension. So
like they're trying to teach him things. They're more like gurus than...
They express his like they all have this attitude of like, you can kill me, but killing me isn't gonna make you better.
Right.
And like he has to constantly deal with this awareness. But the only reason I'm interjecting here is because like you're going to be talking about these gunslingers and people are going to go, why the fuck would that happen? What's happening? What are you talking about? And you have to understand that this movie exists like in a non-narrative spiritual realm, like in the same way that the Holy Mountain does, where it's like, if you go into the Holy Mountain looking for linearity, I'm sorry. You know, if you go into El Topo looking for linearity, I don't know if I can help you. Like, I don't know if I can find it. So get ready for that. It's going to be more meaningful on a spiritual level than anything else. So continue, Neo.
Well, yeah. And while we're on this topic, the first time I watched this movie, we were on acid.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
As
that seems to be the weird fucking like tie together of this whole podcast, huh?
Yeah, it's doing acid and watching movies.
May and Neo watch different movies on acid and report back the podcast.
Yeah, well then we watched it again, not on acid, and it was just as good. But anyway, so he digs a punji pit to kill the first gunslinger. And then I think at that point he picks up the lesbian gunslinger who is showing him and his wife deeper through the desert, but there's obviously a thing going on with his wife and the lesbian.
I wonder why.
Jodorowsky kind of hates masculinity.
I think he hates femininity too.
Yeah,
I don't even know.
I think he might
gonna get into that.
He might just hate the concept of gender.
Maybe.
Anyway,
it's really continue.
So then the next gunslinger has obtained perfection, and shoots the gun out of Jodorowsky's hand and shows Jodorowsky how better he is than Jodorowsky at literally everything, and is trying to teach Jodorowsky that, you know, if you get too perfect and if you get too good, then you just get bored because there's nothing left for you.
So you have to give yourself like a weakness. It's like relationships kind of are your version of nerfing yourself.
Yeah.
Like if you're so good, you have to have a relationship to make yourself stop being so goddamn good. So it's like the wife is like his vulnerable spot. So
yeah.
he kills his wife and it's just like fucked.
Well, no.
Right?
So Jodorowsky drops glass on the ground. Then this guy's wife steps on the glass, and as this guy is trying to help his wife, Jodorowsky's character guns him down.
Right. So, you'll see a theme here where it's like, yes, he kills the gunslingers, but does he do it honestly?
No, no, not at all.
But I think the other thing that Jodorowsky kind of points out in a weird way is that there isn't much of an honest way to kill people.
Yeah.
Especially people that don't deserve it.
No. So then the third gunslinger is this dude who has like a rabbit farm. And as Jodorowsky's character walks up, all the rabbits start dying because he's like the gunslinger in black, like, you know, like the death incarnate.
Yeah.
And so then this guy is like, yeah, I have this like rusty, shitty single shot like flintlock gun because I never miss and I've obtained perfection and I always hit the heart. And so Jodorowsky puts like a pan in front of his heart, so when they duel, this guy shoots him in the heart. It hits like the metal pan you put in. It bounces off, and then Jodorowsky guns him down. Excuse me. And then the fourth gunslinger is this crazy old man who traded his gun for a butterfly net, but and is like, you can't beat me because I'm totally willing to die. I don't care anymore. And so Jodorowsky tries to shoot him, and he catches a bullet with the butterfly net, throws it back at him.
He's like, you can't kill me, but I can kill. He's like, life and death don't matter to me. If you want me to die, I can show you. I can die. And he takes the gun and he shoots himself and dies.
Yeah.
And then like the gunslinger's like, fuck!
Yeah, I didn't kill him. He killed himself. I didn't beat all four gunslingers.
Fuck!
And then if I remember correctly, and then the lesbian shoots him. Or does his wife shoot him?
It's deserved, whoever shoots him.
Yeah. So he gets shot by one of the two. And kind of just passes the fuck out.
Well, it's presumed he's dead. And then this is the halfway point of the movie. You can kind of break the movie up into two chunks. There's like the gunslinger part where he, like, the opening line for Jodorowsky, like, his character is like, I am God.
Yes.
This is the first thing he says. Mm-hmm. And then the second part of it is the first thing that he says is, I am not God.
Yeah, well, he's found by people who live in a cave and are kind of the people society doesn't want seen.
Yeah.
So the people with like birth defects and
consider it the marginalized folks.
Yeah. So all the marginalized folks live in a cave, totally disconnected from society. So they rescue Jodorowsky's character, the gunslinger, and they like fix him up and they shave him, and he wakes up and he's like, I am not God. And then he decides that his new quest in life is going to be to bring these marginalized people into society.
Yeah. Help them get out of their cave they're stuck in.
Yes.
And that's where just the whole everything comes. But anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So he goes up to society with his girlfriend, and they're seen
as like kind of entertaining sideshow
performers.
Performers.
I don't.
It's like how they earn money in the city, but So the significant thing, though, is that this city is very similar to like the Holy Mountain City, where it's just like, welcome to society. It's racist, hell, and white people are the worst. Welcome to colonialism. And like very quickly you realize they have some sort of strange cultish religious situation.
Yeah. Well, so I think it's important to say that.
So the bit is that Jodorowsky's girlfriend is like a little person, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the whole comedy act that they're trying to make money off of is making fun of the fact that she's little,
which kind of sucks, but at the same time it's kind of like it behaves on a sort of Freaks level. I don't know if you've heard of this, but like it kind of like talks about the ostracization of people that are weird and freaks, but also the celebration of them as entertainment figures. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, well, I mean, Jodorowsky uses people with disabilities a lot, just in all of his movies, and I don't think he's even using them in like I think he's using them in
for him.
They're not props. They're like they're deeply like people and like characters to like Jodorowsky in his films.
He clearly shows like a deep care for them.
Yeah, and that's something that it's like you don't really see. I don't know. Well, I don't really see a lot of like of that the kind of disabled people that Jodorowsky has in his movies in America as much. Like I don't for whatever reason. Like when I lived in Africa, it was pretty common, and it unfortunately is like it's because the only way they could live is to beg in the streets, and so it's just interesting seeing that. Jodorowsky's interpretation and portrayal
of that. Right then and there, you see them begging on the streets, and that's the way that you've interpreted like their relationship with society.
Yeah,
clearly that's how Jodorowsky sees it too. He made a whole movie about it.
Yeah, well, and like so, my family every Christmas we would make like a metric shitload of sandwiches when we lived in Africa, and then we would get this guy my dad worked with who spoke like 9 languages. And we would drive around and just hand out sandwiches to homeless people. Yeah. And then just like have or just like talk with them and like have this guy translate for us. And anyway, and it was just like learning their stories is just like crazy because like no one has like a boring story,
Yeah. Well, like there's this weird. I'm gonna call it I'm gonna call it Sullivan's Travels syndrome. Which is a strange thing, but so Sullivan's Travels is a movie from like I'm gonna say the 50s. No, Sullivan's. And anyway, Sullivan's Travels is a movie from the 50s, and the bit is that there's a screenwriter, and he wants to write about the homeless experience, but he realizes that he himself has never experienced homelessness. Right. So he goes covert to pretend to be homeless to learn about the homeless experience. And so it's kind of this thing where people like go, okay, I don't know this culture. I'm going to immerse myself in them to understand them. And like Jodorowsky kind of appears like kind of a fairly transitory version of that in the same way that Todd Browning was, where he's just like, yeah, okay, so I know this society. I'm going to bring it in, you know? And like, is it right or wrong for him to do that? I don't know. It's, him using his like ability to make a film to bring these people and show them is potentially like using them as props, but it's also potentially like celebrating who they are as people and giving them work. Right. Which is awesome. Yeah. So it's kind of like, that's a whole debate, and we can now continue having had that debate. Yeah. Move on.
Moving on. So then the rest of the movie is Jodorowsky's character and his girlfriend kind of navigating their way through this society while raising money to be able to dig a tunnel to the rest of their people.
However,
there's my favorite scene in the movie, where a priest puts a bullet in a gun and starts to play Russian roulette with his congregation in a church, and they're chanting something. I can't remember what they're chanting.
God protect us. Pretty much.
And so then like every time the bullet doesn't, or every time the gun doesn't fire, everyone's like, "Oh, a miracle from God! It's a miracle!" Until the gun is handed to Jodorowsky's son, who was taken in by monks and is
at
now
a young age at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, and is now a priest at this church. So he gets handed the gun, takes the bullet out. He gets handed the gun. The priest turns to him and says, "Don't worry, it's a blank." So it's like there's no risk in it.
And of course he's like pussy shit, and he pulls out a fucking real bullet.
Yeah, so he takes the blank out. He goes to a cowboy, puts one of the cowboy's bullets in the gun, and then plays Russian roulette with it. And then everyone's like, "It's a miracle." And then at this point, the priest is like, "Oh no, we got to get that gun back." So the priest is trying to stop this. And everyone keeps on playing Russian roulette with a now loaded gun until a little child blows their head off. And then, so it's like you see the child put the gun in their head, you hear a gunshot, and then it jump cuts to a title card that says "The Apocalypse," and then excuse me again, and then it jump cuts to the priest and Jodorowsky's son. The other priests are sitting there, and the priest who started it all is like, "Yeah, it's over. No one wants to come to church anymore," and walks out. And then Jodorowsky's son. Well, so the church is filled with all these. So Jodorowsky's society in this, like the evil society of the town, their symbol is like the all-seeing eye, and so the church is filled with all the all-seeing eyes. And so then his son tears down all the all-seeing eyes, and then like behind them is like Christian iconography.
Right.
And then just sits down to pray.
Well, and I think that is, God, there's so fucking many things where if I wanted to, you know that meme where there's the car and it's on the highway, but then like they swerve off into the exit? That's me every 5 seconds with every little micro metaphor in this movie. I just want to take it down the road.
Yeah.
So, but I'm not allowed because we have to finish the
we
fucking plot of the fucking movie. All right, continue, Neo. Finish her up.
So anyway, I think just a lot of like disjointed things happen through here. There's a lot less like narrative cohesion in this part of the movie. So there's like another scene where they make these dudes box with barbed wire, and they keep on boxing until the priest shows up, and they're like, "Who won?" And the priest is like, "Well, they're both dead." And they're like, "Well, who died first?" And he's like, "That one." And the other's like, "Yeah, our guy won, woo!" Even though they're both dead.
Right.
Or there's a scene where like there's a black dude who's like working as like a parlor assistant at like a massage parlor, and then a lady grabs him and forces him to touch her breasts, and then it's just all the women in there start molesting him, but they're like grabbing him and like forcing him onto them and be like, "Oh no, he's molesting us."
And of course, this leads to the whole town deciding.
Well, this leads to all their slave drivers, because it's a slave town.
Right.
Riding him down and lynching him.
Yeah. Well, and like, see, here's another one of those things where I just want to go right down the road. But I want to now mention that this is like a Western that is like, no, we're going to deal with the reality of slavery.
Yeah.
Anyway, continue.
Yeah. So then there's another scene where Jodorowsky and his girlfriend are offered a quick buck to come and entertain people. So they go, and then it turns out it's an orgy, and they force them to have sex with each other to make fun of Jodorowsky's girlfriend.
Which sucks.
Which really sucks. And then they decide that they should get married. So they go to the church. Jodorowsky's son sees his father again. And
they
is
are
like
reunited.
they're reunited.
Immediately are like, fuck, we have to kill each other.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
So his son wants to kill him, and the Jodorowsky's like, you can, but I need to finish the tunnel first.
Yeah.
And so Jodorowsky's son agrees to help him finish the tunnel so then he can kill his father for leaving him with a bunch of monks.
Which is fair.
So then that leads us to the great line of the thing where they're mining, and then something happens, and like Jodorowsky's leg gets blown out or something. Like he has like a broken leg, and his son is like, "You can't work, your leg's broken." And Jodorowsky's like, "My body is in pain, I am not," and then like walks back into the mine. So anyway, so they eventually like break through, so they finish the tunnel between the two are the marginalized people and then the like all seeing eye culture,
right?
And then all the marginalized people rush into culture where they are summarily gunned the fuck down.
Yeah.
So
immediately in an absolute tragedy.
Yeah. And then Jodorowsky flies into a flight of rage, gets a gun, and kills everyone in the town.
Yeah, which is deserved.
And then covers himself in lamp oil and self-immolates. Yeah. Jodorowsky.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so let's start
butt and
digging in. Well, so I think we're like, as Holy Mountain, I see Holy Mountain as like 3 distinct parts. Yeah. I think this is definitely, the 2 distinct parts.
Right.
Where it's one is like a really spiritual, like here's like the meditations of Jodorowsky.
Well, it's like his first half is like him decrying the masculine plan, which is like there's the 2 masculine plans, right? Mm-hmm. There's you can become a godly man and work for marginalized people, and then shoulder the reality that they're never going to be welcome in a society that's filled with shitty, horrible monsters.
Yeah.
And you can't change that yourself, white savior.
Mm-hmm.
There's that narrative. But then there's also the nothing matters. I'm a nihilist. I am God. I can kill and I can hurt whoever I want, and nothing bad will ever happen to me until there's like some major, major heartbreak. And then it's like, oh,
yeah,
I'm not in control of everything.
So one little thing goes wrong, and it's like, oh no.
So like, I feel like this one of all of his movies is very much a like, let's talk about masculinity in detail, and his like his version of masculinity is a pretty ugly one. Mm-hmm. I don't know how he feels about the feminine. There's a moment where in the first half, his girlfriend, who's riding on a horse, is like looking at herself in the mirror, and he has like shoot the mirror, and he's like, "Don't look at yourself. It is bad to look at yourself." And then she like sees another woman, and she's like, "Oh." And so on one hand, it's like, when a man punishes a woman for vanity, does that mean that she's gonna go out and find the feminine attractiveness that she desires in other women?
Yeah,
that's kind of spicy. Anyway, so now I think would be a great time to talk about the controversy.
Yes. So the controversy is, it was in an interview about the movie, Jodorowsky said, I raped the co-star who was my character's wife.
And she did not want to, and like was like, I don't want to film this scene. And he was like, but then, as men have to do, I raped her.
Yes.
Which is a great thing for a man to say about women.
Yeah. Yes. So,
it kind of goes back to that whole using people as props thing.
Mm-hmm.
So there's 2 ways to look at Jodorowsky. There's way number 1. He's a prick who's an egotistical nightmare who's in love with himself, and has completely built a psychedelic world to worship himself and make himself a figure of psychedelic greatness, on the backs of, disabled people, minorities, the chronically ill, and just generally, quote unquote, the freaks of society,
mm-hmm.
and women. And so I think the big narrative with that one this whole thing that he says where he's like, yes, I know she didn't want to do it, but then I raped her. Like that it goes along with that narrative very, very nicely. And I think a lot of people like believing it. But there's also this other aspect of Jodorowsky, which is like, well, what are movies meant to do? And I think that is like an essential question that nobody ever fucking asks, but it's important. And Jodorowsky movies are the only ones that have ever made me ask this question, which is like, what are movies meant to do?
Right.
Not what are they meant to be, not what are they like, not what do they tell me, but what do they do? Like, The Holy Mountain explained social ills to me, and then demonstrated how I personally can deal with them.
Yeah.
That's action. You know, so what does that movie do for me? You know, one can look at it and say, okay, it's an egotistical nightmare, but you can also look at it as a selfless act of like ignoring the rules of cinema, ignoring the rules of like being oneself, and just giving the truth to people in an unmitigated way. Like, there is no subtlety in Jodorowsky movies.
No.
It's very much like Salvador Dali imagery mixed with truth. It's just like blatantly, here's the deal.
Yeah.
You know, in The Holy Mountain, there's a cop. He's the king of the police, and he's got a fucking massive gun because of course he does, and a metal beard.
And he's gonna take.
He collects people's testicles.
He collects
you know what I mean?
balls,
There's
like...
no subtlety there, but that's the thing. There's no subtlety there. So on one hand, you can see it as an egotistical thing, or you can see it as one of the very few instances of somebody in an artistic position just blatantly cutting the shit and saying exactly the truth. And so I mean, it's possible that both of these are kind of simultaneously true.
Right.
Who knows? And I'm curious as to what you think about it. But I think the thing to realize about Jodorowsky is that when he says rape, what does he mean?
Yeah. And I think that's something with Jodorowsky is he really likes pushing people's buttons. And I have that same streak.
He has an entire film career based on it.
Yeah. So I'll do things that I see get a rise out of people, and I'll just keep on doing it because I think it's really funny to just push a button until someone gets mad. And I try not to do it because it's an absolute dick move.
Well, and so I'm now going to. Well, all right.
Let me.
Okay, go. Sorry.
So I think I think that Jodorowsky knows that when he says things like that, people will like really like
not like it,
and then they'll like publicize it,
and also not like him.
Yeah. So later on, if I remember correctly from what I've read, he did say that he didn't actually like
non-consensually.
He didn't non-consensually do anything with her
and have sex with somebody,
and she hasn't said hasn't come out against Jodorowsky.
She isn't complaining about it.
So the only person who's claimed
he said
that
it,
is
and he did it to himself. Yeah, with his own verbiage.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then later he said that he was doing that to get a rise out of people, and that it was like a symbolic thing. So I'm not trying to say that it didn't happen if it did. This is just my interpretation of it. If anything did happen, then obviously fuck Jodorowsky, because it's like it's never okay for someone in a position of power to like.
Of course.
It's never, no. I'm gonna walk that one back too. It's just never okay to rape anyone ever.
Well, obviously.
Stop. So
I mean, consent is extremely important. David Lynch, pressured Naomi Watts to do a masterbation scene, and that kind of sucked. But you know what? She doesn't care. She's happy she did it. In hindsight, So whatever. Shit. Sexuality is kind of an awkward part of humanity. But so that's my bit here, right? The only defense I can have towards Jodorowsky, even though he doesn't necessarily need defending, it was him causing his own problems. But if I could defend him, the thing I would say is that you know that whole masculine urge, feminine urge tweet thing that people are doing? So
I mean, I'm doing a lot.
So like Jodorowsky's really into tarot. So am I. And so I guess because of that, there's this sort of idea that women, when they're married, are meant to be like taken by their partner, and they want to be taken by their partner in like a very visceral way. And so there's a seed of truth to that. The feminine urge to be taken by the person that you're with. Like,
right.
Instead of them like flaccidly kind of enjoying you, they just like are really into you and they enjoy having you. And that's a wonderful thing, right? So I think he's like expressing that in the worst imaginable way.
Right.
Right. So,
well, yeah. Well, and also if you watch the Jodorowsky's Dune documentary, he uses rape to get a rise out of people in that too. Like he's
in the exact same way.
In the exact same way, where he uses rape not as a literal like thing, but as I know it's gonna really push people's buttons and get them on edge.
Well, and I mean, the reality as well is that he was doing these movies when he and many other people were on drugs.
Yeah.
And this is obviously not excuse. This is just truth. And so, okay, I get a lot of shit because I'm really into cultural anthropology. Like, I'm really into black metal, which isn't to say that I support Nazis that make black
Varg.
Metal. Yeah, obviously.
Varg, if you listen to this podcast, fuck you.
Well, he's a pathetic weirdo and a loser, right?
Yeah, get fucked.
But he's interesting to study as a human that exists in the same way that serial killers are kind of interesting to study. And so I feel like, you know, in a weird way, some filmmakers are really easy to let go of. You know, Woody Allen mostly made movies that were all about, like, it was like very narcissistic self-worship shit, like about how I'm so different than all the other boys, you know, and like, women are so hard on me, and but I deserve it. And it's like the self-hating like stereotype, and so letting go of his movies is actually rather easy. You know, if you really want your movies to live past your own cancellation while you're alive, they better be fucking good. And Woody Allen, and to a lot of extent Roman Polanski as well, just really did not withstand that test of anthropology, where people were like, okay, he's interesting enough for me to continue to engage with him, even though I know he is a monster.
Right.
Jodorowsky is one of the examples, in the same way that David Lynch for me is one of the examples of people that, like, okay, I understand that there are things that they've done in their life that were regrettable and shitty, but studying them to me continues to be valuable insofar as, like, I feel like I need to understand this person as they exist, which means understanding their controversy as an aspect of them. Right? So it's kind of like, I'm not the kind of person to push away the controversy of what Jodorowsky said. Instead, I would rather say, yes, this is an aspect of what he does, right? And that aspect is obviously not something that a lot of people can endure and enjoy.
Right.
Then again, these are movies made. This is an acid Western, and it's a movie about very, very harsh subjects. So can you really expect it to play nice?
No.
Not really. Now, before we continue, because we got takes and they are excrement, we're going to do a little ad breaky poo. So
yeah, we are.
We'll be right back. I love you.
Love you too. All right, our first sponsor is Machine Age Productions and their RPG #IHunt. It's economic horror about hunting monsters in the gig economy where eviction is scarier than Dracula. It's Buffy meets Uber. So after we got this sponsor, before even talking to them, and probably doing what I could have done and requesting access to the book, I just bought the book at work. and started reading through it, and then I got the flu, and then kept reading through it.
Then you had no excuse to stop.
Yeah. So outside of of being paid for this, I think it's awesome. I really enjoy the book. I really love RPGs that tell fascists to go fuck themselves. Like literally,
right on the cover.
there's literally a chunk of the book that's like, it's in the rules. It's like, no fascists, get out of here. Yeah, it's really cool. I really like modern kind of cyberpunk dystopian stuff. I play a lot of Shadowrun, a lot of Cyberpunk Red. And it's kind of the same like wealth disparity tones that I really like. Who doesn't like hunting monsters?
Right.
Yeah, I haven't played it yet.
But we're
I'm excited
We're probably
to.
going to play it. The thing I was going to mention about it is that I know the people who make this game ever so slightly. Only in passing. I know Olivia and Philomena. I believe that those are the names. In passing, hi y'all. Thank you for supporting our podcast. Super sweet of you. We're very happy to be ad reading for you at this point. I guess this is sort of a break in the matrix to just tell the people like, hey, we really love you. Thanks. But no, they're the sweetest. So seriously, go support their RPG.
Yeah, go do it.
And we've been talking about potentially doing an RPG related podcast.
Yeah.
Sometime in the future. This could be one. We could do iHunt.
We could.
That would be fun for a podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, we could even have the fucking creators on.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right.
So yeah. And so the only other thing that we need to say in the ad read is,
go check out our Patreon.
yes, patreon.com/
Excrement.
True. Correct. Ding, ding, ding. You got
Yes.
it. We actually broke $100, which is
Hell
great.
yeah.
That's almost a paycheck for little Neo here.
Yeah. So now I envisioned me being able to take a day off of work, just work on the podcast, like once a month with that. And then I got the flu, so I had to take a couple days off of work.
Yeah.
So
we were a bit behind. We were a little fucky fucked there. But I mean, we've been killing it on episodes. Like we've been dropping episodes like there are nothing.
Yeah, and we're not going to stop.
Yeah, no, in no way.
All right.
So, yes, patreon.com/ excrement.
Excrement.
Check out iHunt. Let's get back to the podcast.
Yeah. Before we get too deep back into it, before we went live, May said, Neo, don't eat cough drops. And in an act of defiance, I'm going to eat a cough drop because I'm still sick.
All right. You know what? That's fine. I'll accept it. I'll let it happen. Anyway, so where were we? Rape is bad. I can't believe that Jodorowsky is a fucking idiot. But like, listen, I've had people violate my consent in my life, and I don't want to go into detail about it. But I'm very aware of that experience, and the way that Jodorowsky talks about it is like in a really callous and stupid, bro-y kind of dumb. He's 80 years old way.
Yeah.
So it's not to say that I forgive it, but I don't believe him. Like, I don't believe him.
Mm-hmm.
He says that that's what he's doing, but I think he's a little effeminate, little squirrely,
a little
baby.
conniving.
Yeah,
a little conniving shit.
He doesn't strike me as that kind of boy, but maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong. But regardless, we're here to talk about his film.
Yeah.
And his film is Excrement, but it could be turned into gold.
It could be.
With our discussion of our takes. So, Neo.
Well, I really want to go into the church scene because so my parents are missionaries. My dad is a doctorate in theology. He teaches at a Bible college. So I, of course, had to show him the scene where Jodorowsky is like, wow, church arms people with ideology and then pushes them too far and then abandons them and hurts and their own ideology hurts people. And that's very much how I feel. And not even just against my parents, but towards like the boarding school I went to. Because I've spent most of my rational adult life kind of trying to deprogram myself away from the things I was. Are you
I
all
burned
right?
my finger. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Continue. I'm listening.
So I spent most of my like adult life trying to deprogram myself from a lot of the things I was taught in boarding school, and not that I'm like anti-Christian. To some degree, I still kind of consider myself in that faith, but it's like, all of the kind of deranged rants that people put in my head that are in no way part of my spirituality, what I believe, but we're just kind of like malignantly lying there like a fucking tumor, where I'll be thinking about
sabotaging religion.
Yeah, it's
like taking your ability to perceive reality and spirituality and turning it into some kind of rule book where there's like a bunch of really fucked up stupid things that are completely abandoned on you. Like you don't even understand why these are things you're doing.
Yeah, well, so in 7th grade in my Bible class, we had this teacher that we all thought was really cool and we all looked up to. And for most of Bible class, he would just regale us of stories about how he got arrested for harassing people at abortion clinics, and talking about how cool the nation state of Israel was. And it's like, it's like, and that just kind of like sat in my brain, and I never really thought about it until like I was 25, and I was like, hold up,
yeah,
wait a second, that's just like this misplaced respect for this dickhead. Well, just sitting in the back of my mind. I mean, you got to clear that one out.
Well, when I was in I guess I would have been 10th grade probably. I was in a world history class, and I had a teacher dead ass say, yeah, this is the part where I'm supposed to teach FDR, but fuck FDR. He's an asshole and a liberal, and I hate him, so I don't want to teach you him. And it was just like, neat.
Very cool.
Very cool. You can pick and choose what history to teach me.
Yeah. So, yeah, and so it's like, it's I personally, like, I grew up with all this, you got to take care of the poor, you got to feed the hungry, you got to you got to house the homeless, you got to take care of the least of us. And that's what Christianity is about.
Right.
And so I get armed and like pulled back like a bowstring with all these like altruistic ideals. And I come to America and everyone's like, you fucking communist asshole. Like, fuck you, commie.
Yeah.
It's like, that's not what Christianity is about, fucking idiot. You fucking liberal. And it's like, whoa, what?
Yeah, it's not about helping people. Well, but that's the funny thing. So kind of tying this all back into El Topo, you've come up against the two paths, which are like, there's the gunslinger path of just being reckless, and like we live in Texas.
Yeah.
The most individualist state. Like everybody here is like, don't fuck with me, don't get on my lawn, don't fuck with my guns, and don't talk to me about politics or religion unless you're talking to me about the thing I already think.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the way shit is here.
Mm-hmm.
And I've just been conditioned with this since growing up, but you kind of got thrust upon it after the first half of the Holy Mountain. So but more than anything, you came up against yourself, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like when in the early half of the movie, when Jodorowsky's character is like a gunslinger, like killing people for sport and shit, he's ultimately one of the kind of people that would have killed a disabled person. Matter of fact, his character does in the movie. Two of them, yeah. And like
just because he can.
Just because he can. And so he doesn't see the value in human life. Mm-hmm. And that's how shit is here. They don't see the value in human life. So this altruism that you've gained, it's like you came up against this. Like coming from that version of altruism and then coming here where people just fucking hate everybody. It's like your version of being one of those people, like coming into society and getting gunned down. Well,
and it's like it's like when you have the church full of the culture and full of what people want to see, and this like evil, twisted, racist, shitty, evil culture. And when that's what the church is about, they love it.
Right.
But then when the apocalypse happens and you strip away all of the shitty cultural stuff and you just get to the part where Jesus is like, hey, take care of each other, feed the homeless, like that's it's like the most important rule: love God, love others. Like nothing like that's it, full stop.
Right.
As long as you're loving others and like taking care of those who need to be taken care of, that's it. Like that's all you got to do. And then once you strip it down to that, people leave. Like people, people want the shitty, hateful bullshit, and that just like tears me apart. And I don't know. That just like it's like it just really hurts me.
Well, in the very end act, right? The wow, I'm horrified at what society has done, which is actually what I have done. So I'm going to kill society and then kill myself, like destroy society and destroy myself if at all possible. And like, so that's the whole angle. And the fucked up thing is like, that seems to be everybody's whole MO these days. Like that's their whole vibe. It's like, I can't do anything. Guess I'd better kill society and then myself. And so it's just like, dang, the masculine urge to kill society and then themselves.
Well, yeah. And I've been feeling that a lot too. Like,
well, it's a punk thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, you're angry. You want to fucking break shit when shit's fucked up. And in the last like couple months, things have been so unjustifiably fucked up in our country, especially in our state, that it's like, dang, the feminine urge. Like, I hate it here, man. It's a bummer. So like, yeah, I don't know. I think that gets to some truth in there too. And ugly as it may be, it is still truth.
Yeah. And I think part of the reason I really like Jodorowsky is he just like has his like hand on the pulse of like of exactly how I feel about just about everything.
Yeah. Well, and it's just like The Holy Mountain is literally a movie where it's like, do you want to know the truth? I will tell it to you, but you will not like it.
Yeah.
And this movie is another situation where it's like, do you want the truth? I will tell it to you, but you will not like it.
Yeah. Where it's like, you want to know about society? This is society. This is culture.
Right. And, and not like in a Joker society meme way.
Yeah.
But like, so like, I actually feel like somebody could easily make a comparison to like Todd Phillips' Joker movie, right? Where it's like, society's evil. It's out to get you. But in that movie, which also doesn't lack subtlety, it's like constantly beating up on that main character and making us feel like he's more and more like sympathetic and pathetic. Whereas in El Topo, it's more just like very uncaring, very flat.
Yeah.
Like at some point there's a lynching of a black person. It's horrible. And it's just plainly shown to you. Yeah. Just here it is, no drama.
Well, and I think El Topo is the more real version of society, because I feel like a lot of times,
without a doubt,
it's like society never feels like it's targeting me. It always just feels like it's apathetic to me.
Right. Like it doesn't turn its eye to me.
It doesn't need to punch me in the face.
Right. Exactly. So
to make me feel hopeless and dejected.
Exactly. And I feel like it's almost untrue that the world punches you in the face, as much as it's like it just slowly grades on you until you lose all sense of self.
Yeah, well, so I don't know. This might be going into too much personal detail.
Fuck it.
But
this is a therapy session, not a podcast. Let's be real.
But like, like a year ago, I was like really, really suicidal. So I called the college I went to, and I was like, hey, can I see a psychiatrist? Because I'm really, really depressed. I'm suicidal. I need to talk to someone, and I probably really need like antidepressants.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, absolutely. We can schedule an appointment for 2 months. And I was like, I don't think
I'm gonna make it there, Chief.
I don't know. I just got out of the bathtub holding a knife. So yeah, I don't know if I got 2 months. So I was like, all right, can you like refer me to someone? And so I heard them clickety clack on the keyboard, and I was like, I bet they're just Googling like psychiatrist in the area.
It's like, let's see what we got here.
Yeah, and so they give me a list of 5 people. The first 3 weren't psychiatrists, so when I called them asking for psychiatric services and antidepressants, they were like, "We're a family practice, idiot." Like, what are you fucking talking about?
Well, like,
then the other 2 who were actually psychiatrists were full.
Oh, right.
And no one else could refer me to anyone else. So it's like,
well, and like, I'm uninsured, so I went to get a psych eval, and it was like $750, and I was like, oh, well, I'll be leaving.
yeah.
You know, I'm not doing that. I'll just be crazy and kill myself. Sorry.
Yeah. So
like,
I think
it's cheaper.
yeah. So where the Joker fucks up is it's like you don't need to like physically assault and beat someone to
beat them down.
To beat them down. It's like all you need is just an apathetic society that grinds you under the wheels of no one gives a shit about you.
Yeah. Well, and it's kind of like, I think that this is one of those very rare movies that demonstrates clearly it's not that society is evil. It's the society has lost the plot.
Yeah.
Whatever the purpose of it was is gone. It is entirely a grift now, which is something that we talked about a lot in the last episode or one of the episodes. Mm-hmm. And it's like, this is a movie that represents that idea very succinctly.
Yeah.
It's like the world, like society, unfortunately, has lost the plot, become a racist, nightmarish grift.
Right.
And interacting with it at all is hell and bad. And so, like...
Well, and it's better to be in a marginalized community that cares for you and cares for each other than to try to be in
than to be rejected and murdered in society.
And ground under the wheels of big-ass society.
Right. Well, and, like, that makes it sound like that's, like, pro-segregation or something. Like, I think that marginalized people should, like, stay away from society. But, like, I think it's less that I think we need to stay away from them to protect them from us, but rather the opposite. It's like we need to probably protect ourselves from them at this point.
There's this line from an Eminem song. Who's the rapper, the other rapper who like always collabs with them? Is it Pusha T?
Dr. Dre?
No.
What are you talking about?
Who am I talking about? Give me.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Hold on.
Where am I?
Stall for me for 1 second, May.
Holy shit. I can't believe that we are going to stop this Jodorowsky moment here. We were talking about his film, his art film.
No. This is
to look up
Royce the 5'9".
Eminem. Royce the 5'9".
There's a bit where Royce the 5'9" is talking, and he says, "Segregation is being told where I'm gonna go. Separation is me going where I want to go."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and so it's like it's like I think I'm pro separation and not in like fuck segregation, but it's like I do think it's like, you know, when communities say, "All right, we are all gonna go and like do our own thing over here because like we're marginalized and fuck you guys."
Right.
It's great. It's awesome. Like,
well,
hell yeah.
And so the metaphor of the movie, El Topo, right, is the mole that desperately desires reaching the surface and seeing the sun, but when it does, it's blinded because we live in an uncaring, godless universe that hates us, and so when you get what you want, it kills you.
Right.
You get your fantasy, and it's a nightmare. And if your fantasy is to be in society will eat you alive. And that's so disastrously nihilistic, but at the same time, it's also just the most honest. It's like a Modest Mouse song. You know,
Yeah.
how do I hate something that's so true? So where I'm kind of left at El Topo, we didn't really talk all that much about the first half of the movie. I guess it doesn't matter that much. The second half, I feel like, is where it really comes into its own.
Yeah, well, like I said, the first half is like weird spiritual guru ramblings, where the second half is like a direct, like, here's society, here's where society's fucked up.
Right.
Where it's like you could talk about,
and they're a companion piece to each other. They're
Yeah.
answers to each other.
Right.
Like the dark side of of being a man and being a godly man is to be the uncaring God. And then the adverse is to be someone who is caring and realizes that we live with an uncaring God.
Right. Well, and also like the second part of the movie is kind of is to Jodorowsky's son, the first part.
Right.
And so where he's learning the lessons Jodorowsky learned in the first half of the movie.
Right. Exactly.
But so we could talk about the bit from the first half where it's like, oh yeah, to be too perfect is a problem. Like you probably don't want to be too perfect because perfection's the enemy of the great. Or we could talk about the really crazy social stuff Jodorowsky brings up, and I think we both find that to be a lot more interesting.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. But also we are blazing past an hour here. We've been killing this podcast in its dick and ass. So we've been
Both
talking for a while about this one. Clearly, we're going to be talking more about Jodorowsky. We're going to be talking about the Holy Mountain at some point. We want to do a double episode about it.
Yeah.
2
There's
hours.
so much to talk about
There
with
is
the Holy Mountain.
a lot to talk about. And there's 3 whole parts. It's like a thing. And I mean, I guess this is like a demo run for that. If you like hearing us talk about Jodorowsky, we're going to be doing more of it. But anyway, so Neo, I know your answer.
Yeah, I think everyone knows both of our answers.
It's great. It's fucking great.
So good.
I went and saw this movie at a theater, at the Texas Theater once, like a couple of years ago, and the entire audience thought that it was the funniest thing they'd ever seen. And I don't know where I stand on whether or not that's cool.
Parts of it are pretty funny.
It's pretty fucking funny to me.
The dude drawing a woman with beans and
then fucking
pretty,
the bean
pretty funny.
lady is pretty good. It's pretty fucking good.
Or the scene where the
agree.
guy gets dressed and walks out, and then like a million hogs or like pigs run out behind him.
Well, and like the movie makes authority look so pathetic,
Yeah.
you know, because when you're an uncaring God, you're just like destroying the sins of humanity, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like goodness. It's a movie about sin,
Mm-hmm.
and that's interesting.
Yeah. So
the
movie goes in the good excrement pile.
Big pile of shit.
Big
and
pile
it's
of
going on
good
top.
shit.
Now I show this to all my friends.
Yeah.
No, actually.
No.
It took us a year to watch this?
Nah, less than that. Like 9 months.
Yeah.
I mean, we watched Holy Mountain pretty quickly.
Yeah. I mean, well, that's essential.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like when me and May started hanging out, May was pretty much like, oh, this boy needs some acid and the Holy Mountain.
Here, let me introduce you to intellectualism. So
it's an intellectual
psychedelia and nuance. So I guess this is a big old recommendation for El Topo. If you haven't seen it, it's kind of a classic. You kind of have to. It's kind of like seeing like anything else that's classic, where it's like, yeah, there are problems, but like it's great.
John Lennon's favorite movie.
Yeah.
And if you just watch
dead.
Get Back, watch El Topo next.
Yeah, go watch El Topo now. Clearly. Just like if you watch Hairspray, you gotta go watch Big Flamingos. Anyway, okay, friends. Well, shit. This has been a successful podcast. It's been lovely talking to you again. I haven't seen you in a little while. It's been we've been having to wait because of the fucking flu, but hopefully that passes us by real quick.
Yeah, I'm for all the patrons who want the videos more than like a day early.
Sorry, we've got the flu.
We're trying, but we got the flu, and we're
trying. We're trying to keep up this schedule.
Doing our best.
Yeah. Well, and also I had 2 videos this week. I have fucking albums coming. I didn't even mention that. Listen, I don't tell anybody, but I have CDs in the mail. Like, they're coming.
Hell yeah.
Of my music, and I'm gonna sell that shit. Anyway, it's been a busy ass week over here, but we still made time to talk about El Topo.
Yeah.
Yay! Anyway, so thank you for coming out, and make sure and subscribe or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
Patreon.com/excrement.
And thank you to Machine Age Productions and #iHunt for sponsoring us.
Mm-hmm.
Be sure to go check them out.
And if you would like to sponsor this podcast, you can do that over at our Patreon as well.
Yeah.
We still are. We're going to be taking quite a few ads. We can rotate them through or whatever we need to end up doing.
Yeah.
But no. Yeah. Have a great what week? Week?
Have a
week?
great the rest of eternity.
Have a good remainder of your life.
Yeah. All right. See y'all later.
See you in the next plane of existence.